Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you something that I made in response to the questions from the community. So earlier I made this poll to ask for what kind of videos you're interested to see more, and then many of you responded by saying that you want to see HR related Excel training video, and specifically actually Diane asked this question that she would like to see a video on how to build an Excel template for managing basically salary increases with managers. So in response to her request, this is a template, a very generic template that I made for people for these purposes. So as you can see here, you have the company logo name up there. You would have the employee summary table here, and then you would also have merit matrix table showing the guideline of what kind of increase you want to give to people. Down here is going to be different employees and employee details by departments. And with all the information, we also have a tab. We also have the charts of showing how the headcount is split by different departments and how the increased spend is split by departments, so you can compare and contrast. Another feature that I have is also that I have this button back to instructions, so that people can go back to the instruction tab if they want, and then after they see the detail they can go back to the planning sheet. Another feature I added here is that I made sure all the users can only touch and change cells in the yellow, highlighted in yellow. So for example, here they can change it to 5% if they want. They can make comments. But guess what? If they want to change the performance rating, if they want to change the merit matrix, you know what? Excel does not allow it because it's locked. So this way we protect the sanity of data on this tab as well. And let's see, if you want to change any data on this tab, it doesn't allow you to do that. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make this template from scratch. Hopefully that can help Diane and all of you who need it. Okay, so here is a tab where I have already summarized the step-by-step instructions to how to make this template. So let's just go through them. The first step is to customize the tabs to fit your organizational needs. So when I say that, I mean that usually you would have one tab that is instruction for the users, maybe your managers, maybe your CEO, C-suite executives. But then here is a tab where you just have text on how to use the sheets. Any company specific information that you need are also going to be put here, where I just put sample text here, but then essentially this tab is just where you write information, and then you go to the next tab is where you have the all the data and all the formulas here. So how do we make this one? To start from scratch, if you don't have any templates at all from your company, here's what I'm gonna recommend. You would need to go to file, and then you go to new under here, and here is a lot of templates that you can leverage from Excel, so that you can at least borrow something that you don't need to spend all your time building something new from scratch. So for example, what I'm doing is a salary increase template. There's nothing gonna be exactly the same as what you need, but then I'm like, well, it's gonna be about money that we spend, so it's probably gonna be something similar to budget. So I would, for example, search for budget in here, and then I go enter. And then it's searching all the free templates and then recommending all those templates that's kind of related to budget. And I look at them, and let's say this one is what I think, okay, maybe I can leverage this one. So you click on it. Well, actually, I think I'm a step fast. Actually, okay, let me do it again. So if you, let's say if this is what you want, single click, and then it's going to show you a screenshot. If you like how it's laid out, go to create, or double click, and then here is what the template is going to look like. So it has also a star or instruction tab, and then it has different tabs with sample information, and it even has a chart. And if you click on each of those cells, you will see they actually already have formulas linked to it. You can see there's already very good formula linked to it. So if you need to make something exactly the same as this template, lucky you, you can just go ahead using it. But in our case, it's not exactly what we need. So I borrow the title head, I borrow the color scheme and the layout, but then basically I create the data specific to my need, like what you're seeing here. So let me explain to you section by section. So for a salary increase template, you would always have a summary tab, because this is going to show you your total employee number and the total spending after all. And usually down here are all the core information. So for example, if you want to have different departments, you would definitely have your employee names. And I've also listed all the information that I need here. For example, I need a performance rating, a column. I need a comp ratio column. I need the group of comp ratio columns so that I can leverage the merit matrix that I have. So with all those information, I can make suggestion on merit increase. I would also have people's base salary before the increase so that I can calculate their increase after the suggested merit increase, and then I can show their new base salary. So this is the core template that I'm making, and for each, actually, if I show you, this is a working file. So if I show you like this, you're gonna have different departments. You can see I have different departments. Each department have a subtotal. And then this is what I'm using to start off the template. Okay, so we have inputted employee information on the planning sheets, as I have noted here down here. Just also for user-friendly interface, if you want this part, like the summary part, always stick to the top, what you can do is a phrase panel with all the employee names and the headings here, and then basically you can go to view and then phrase panels. This way, like after you do that, you can see the top summary will always stay there for easy reference, and then you can scroll down for different employees and then see their respective information there. Okay, so now we have done the second step. The third step is to input budget information on the planning sheet, the budget section, which is essentially the top left summary section. So as you can see here, I have put in 6 fields. The first one is total headcount. I'm going to show you the formula of to calculate them. But then, so basically we would have the headcount calculated. We would have people's total salary before the increase, people's total salary after the increase, so we can calculate how much money we spent for the increase, which is essentially this cell minus this cell. And then we have the total budget. There are different ways that companies set their salary increase budget, and there's no right or wrong answer. For example, some companies set the budget as a % of their total payroll, which, for example, if the total salary before increase is 1 million, then they say this is 2% of the 1 million, and then you spend that money. Some company may just prefer to have a hard-coded number that this is how much money we'll have for, and then they basically maybe just input a hard-code number in here, and then that's totally fine. It's totally up to the company. And then for our easy demonstration for this template, I'll just hard-code a number here, and then budget minus spend is basically the difference of those two numbers. so you can see whether you have a surplus or you have a deficit for this number. Okay, so we have already set up those fields as well. So now let's go into the core part of this template, which is create the formulas and test with data. So first, let's start with those 3 cells. Okay, so for total headcount, there are many ways to do it, but in my template here, I'm counting the total headcount by counting their employee ID, which in this template is actually hidden in column B. So if I expand this ungroup bottom, you can see in column B I have employee ID, and then all the employee ID are unique reference to the employees in different departments. So I know that as a user, your managers, your CEO might like to refer people by name. They don't like to refer people by ID because it's impersonal. But then for HR professional, we have to make sure that all the salary increases are absolutely 100% correct, and then that way it's actually better to refer people by their employee ID. So here the formula that I'm using is count if. So you go count if tab, and then you select the range. In my case, it's going to be row like 14 to 37. That's all the rows that I needed. I also have used F4, so it's absolute reference, so that the range does not change if I copy the formula somewhere else. And then the criteria that I'm using is double quote greater than 0, because all my employee IDs is a number is greater than 0. So if it's blank, then we don't count. And then close a bracket, and that shows that in this template I have 16 employees in basically 3 departments. The next cell here is total salary before salary increase. So there are, again, different, depends on how you lay out your template. There are different formulas they can use to count. In my formula, because I have in my template, because I have a subtotal for each department and I only have 3 departments, so the most easy way is actually just sum up your subtotals. So it's going to be column H, and then I have one subtotal for operations department, the other one is for the marketing department, and then the next one is for the admin department, and those are the numbers of people that I that's the total salary for people that I have before increase. And then for the total salary after increase, it's going to be column J. It's not yet calculated, but we can still set up the formula first. So it's J, the cell J23 plus cell J32, and then plus cell 37, J67, and then here we go. So it's still 0 now, but we'll see how it's going to change after we set up all those formulas there. And then the total increase, as you can see, is going to be the difference of those 2 numbers. Okay, so let's save it. So we are starting off here, and then the next step actually is to set up the formula here. And then there are also different ways to suggest mirror increase for people. Some companies do not have a guideline, or they don't have a mirror matrix type of guideline, and that's fine. You can put like, basically, if your performance is great, then you give like 4% to people. If it's not so great, you get 2%, things like that. But what I'm using here is that you have a mirror matrix that's based on compa ratio grouping, as well as performance rating. So 3 in this case is the best performance, 1 being the lowest performance, and then you give people recommendation for their salary increase based on what the performance is and what their compa ratio grouping is. I'm not going to go into detail for this mirror matrix, but I do have a playlist focusing on mirror matrix, which I will also put in the card and the description, which you, after watching this video, you can go into those videos for a more detailed explanation and example as well. Okay, so let's say this is a mirror matrix that we're using for this template. Then basically what you can do here is to make sure your managers input their salary increase based on this guideline. And then for each of those people, and here what I usually do for testing is that I'll just put like say like 2%, you know, let's say 3%. I will put that for all the cells that I need people to write, which are all the yellow cells, as you can see. So I put the three, put a number in all the yellow cells, and then 3%, and then I put the formula here to test if it's working. So for example, the increase span is going to be their base salary times the merit increase, 3%, and that gives me the amount that we're going to use for this person. And then the base salary after the increase is going to be the base salary before the increase times plus the increase they spent, and that's their new salary. And then the comment here they manager can put is that, like for example, here I say poor performer or anything. So that's what they can do here. And then what I'm gonna do is that I select the two cells, copy them, and copy the formula down, so that all the formulas are copied. And then you notice that as I copy the formula down, all my summary table are changing that and calculating. So that's also one way that we can verify if the formula is working. So basically, I'm gonna copy the formula down for all my 3 departments. And as you can see, the increase percent is continuous to change. And then let me copy those down for my admin department. And here we go. So that is all the increase that we spent for this company. And let's say our total budget in this case is 50,000. You know what that means? That we do have a deficit of 2,000, and we have to squish that out from someone. So for example, I can filter out all the people that I have for like as performance rating 1, and I can say, you know what, all those people get 0% or like 1%. Let me see if I know 1% and 1%, and here we go. So that helps us to stay within the budget. So the good thing about this template is that people, your user can make changes on the template, and then they can see dynamic change as they make decisions. Analytical dynamic charts are optional. They're not necessary, but then from my past experience, my users always love them because they're so visual. They show you the change right away, and it's just more user-friendly for them. So you can also add them to your planning sheet if you want. So let me show you a very simple example. So for example, in this template, let's say I want to show my user the head count and the budget spent by departments. So here, let's say I'll just use those cells here. So I will say I have, you can tell I have operations department, I have marketing department, and I also have admin department. So for each of the departments, I'm going to show head count. And I'm gonna show increase spend dollar, and then for the head count here, I can use formula or I can just count it. It doesn't matter. I'll just use formula here for demonstration. So count if my range is gonna be these columns for operation department, absolute reference, and then greater than 0. And then that shows me that I have 8 employees, and then the same for my marketing department. Greater than 0, close it, 6 employees in that. And then for my admin department, I know, count if, and then again the same formula, select the rows greater than 0, and then you see it's 2, so it's showing $2, but let's change the format, so it's 2. Okay, and then the increase spent cell here, actually we already have that calculated in the subtotal cell, so let's just get that number here. So it's this cell, and then marketing department is the next department, and then admin department is the next one. Also here, I think you will also see the formula that I use for the subtotal for the subtotal row. It is essentially let me show you again. So it's I'm using the subtotal formula. You select subtotal tab, and then they ask you what you wanna, like which function you want to use. I want to use a sum, or alternatively you can just input 109. And then they ask you which cell you want to refer to. So for example, in my case here for admin department, I want to refer to those 2 rows, and then close the bracket, and then here it goes. So that's how you get to the subtotal cell for the base salary before increase spend, and after base salary after increase. Okay, so those are my row number for the charts. So let's make the one with a headcount first. So select your department name and the headcount. Select the data, and then go insert recommended chart. I like pie chart. I'll go OK. So here we go. I want to choose a different format. I like this format better, but I don't like the color toning. So I'm going to change color to something I like better. Okay, so that's what I want to have for the head count. And then I want to have exactly the same kind of chart for increase spend. So what I would do is I select this chart, Control C, and then Control V, and then you can see I get exactly the same chart, right? And then once you highlight the chart, it shows you which data we use. Select the data of headcount, move it to increase spend, and here you go. So that gives you exactly the same chart of the same beautiful format, but then with the number you want to show. And you can see here, those data are in the background. I don't want to show them. I just want to show my user my charts. So you move the charts to the side to cover the data, so your user can only see the headcount and the increase spend. And the best part about it is that it's dynamic. So for example, let's say for my admin department, I want to change all those people to like 10% increase because I want to promote them. And then you can see the increase spend for my department automatically change as I move, as I change number here. And this is not only going to be helpful for the users at the end, it's going to be helpful during the salary planning process because your user can make informed decision as they play around with the template. So that's how you add dynamic charts to it. Merit matrix, I have just covered that. There's also more fancy use of adding macro and VBA related codes to solve more complex issues. So for example, one way to do that is that I have a certain budget to spend. How do I set my merit matrix so that I can make I can spend all my money, but I can set it in a useful way. So I also have a playlist on macro for beginners, and I also have a playlist to help you understand functions like go sick, and how to use macro to do go sick in those videos. I will have them on the in the cards as well as in the descriptions for your further reference there. Okay, so now you have set up all the functions, the core functions for the template. So now let's do something in addition to make it more user-friendly. The first thing, as I have already done, is highlight cells where input is needed for users. So for example, in this template, your user only need to provide input in the yellow cells. So that's why you mark them as yellow, so they know that they take action in those cells. Another thing to do is to add the toggle button for easy navigation across sheets. So for example, I have this instruction tab. I want to add this to my sheets, so people can click on it and then go here. And I also want to add a back to instruction tab here, button here, so they can go back to the instruction if they need. So let me show you how to do that. So for example, this is your planning sheet, and then you want to add that arrow to refer you back to the instruction tab. So you go insert, shape, and then let's say we want to use this arrow here, and then like that, and then add a text back to instruction tab. That's that. And then what you need to do here is right click, go to hyperlink, and then you can see here existing place in this document. This is what you choose, and then you want it to go back to instruction for users. Select the sheet that you need and then go OK. And then now when you go back to this arrow and then jump out, and then when you go back to it, you can see this hand here. Click on it, and then it helps you to go back to the instruction tab. The next step is to lock up all the areas where users cannot change and hide information where they don't need to see. I find this very important too, because, you know, especially in human resources or maybe in finance, like you're dealing with confidential data. Therefore, you don't want people who don't have the authority to change it, which causes confusion. So for example, in this sheet that you're seeing here, the only where we want people to make change are the yellow cells. People's salary, people's performance rating, all the guideline, we don't want people to change. In some cases, actually, we don't even want people to see how we calculate the formulas. So how do we do that? So the first thing you do is to go here, like see the triangle between A and 1, click on it, and select the full sheet, and then right click and go to format cells. And in the format cells, you see go to the protection tab. So this is where you see there's gonna be a locked and hidden. So I want all the I want all the formulas be hidden. I will click here so that all the formulas are hidden. So here it's showing a square, which means that some cells are locked and some cells not. So if you lock a cell, so here if I do like that, that means no cells are locked. But then if I go, no cells are locked, but then if I go like this, it means that all the cells are locked. So now let's say I just want to lock all the cells, right? So I go OK, and then and then the next step you do is to select all the yellow cells here. So let me show you an example. Let's say I want to log all the cells in this yellow column here. So I select all of them and right click, go to format cells. So you can see in protection, I have some of them locked and some of them not. So here you want to make it empty. So no cell is locked in this selection. Go OK. And then you do the same thing for the comments, which you know that you want to allow people to input. Do the same thing, format cell, and then make sure it's not locked. And then OK, and then the next thing you do is to go to review tab and the protect sheet. So here you need to put a password. My tip for you here is that make sure the password you use to unprotect your sheets workbook is different from the password to open the workbook. So I'll just put something random here. OK. And then now you can test it out in your sheet. So for example, if someone want to change this number, Excel's gonna tell them, no, you can't change it. They can't change this number. But then let's say your manager, let's say he wants to change this to from 3 to 5%. You know what, he can. And then he can also change the comments. And then he can change the merit increase for the next person, which will also change the salary increase for increase spent. Yeah, and then you notice that whatever change they make here is going to change the summary tab, and then it's also going to change the numbers in the chart. Okay, so that's the next step, that you lock up all the area. And then one thing you can also notice that, for example, this cell is where we have formulas, but then you can see now we have hidden the cell, so you cannot see, basically the users cannot see the formula here. Another thing you want to do is to also hide the sheets where you know your users don't need. For example, this is an instruction tab for just the admins, the people who can access and make change to this spreadsheet, which you don't want your users, the managers, to see. So what you do here is you hide it, you go hide, and then you go to review here, you go to protect workbook. Protect the structure, and then let's say you use a password. So this password actually can be the same as your password to protect the worksheets. So let's say I use a password, and then now you have protected your workbook, and then now you can see here people cannot make change to the structure. They cannot unhide the sheets that you don't want them to see. Okay, so that covers basically, okay, so now let's unhide it so that we can see what's left. So now we unhide it, and then let's see what step left. So the last step is to password protect your workbook and send off to the users. So this step is actually you go to the file, and then you go to protect workbook, and then encrypt with password, and then you put your password here. So, and then when you send it to your users, make sure that you send the password in a separate file, in a separate email, so that they have one email with the file and then another email with the password. So that way is the most secure method to make sure that only the people you want to have access of this file can open it, like other people cannot access, like especially since like this, like people specific confidential information within the organization. Okay, so I've shown you all the 7 steps that I found very generic to building a salary increase template. I hope that you find this information useful. It is very generic, and there's all kinds of nuances, all kinds of specific requests that I have encountered with organizations. So if you have any questions, if you have any specific needs, feel free to leave a comment down below and share with me and with your peers, and then we can all find out if there's a better way to do this. Okay, so this is what I want to cover today, and I hope that you find this video helpful. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you like it. If you have any question, please leave me a comment, and I will talk to you very soon.